Okay, now having seen some interesting examples of different types of slope failures, let's kind of summarize what causes a slope failure. And so as we study this, we need to understand the changes in the properties of soils, such as how quick clays become unstable. Saturated clay, as the pore pressure becomes greater, it can lose its effective stress and lead to failure. Sometimes loading will cause the problem. And so we need to, as geotechnical engineers, being paid to analyze this, and when you're designing a highway or a subdivision or working on a mine, you have to have a pretty good grasp of all these things that could potentially lead to a slope failure. And so here's the basic premise here. For a slope to be stable, the strength of the soil must be greater than the shear stress required for equilibrium along the failure surface. So that first sentence right there is going to be the basis of all of the mathematical techniques we're going to be using the rest of the semester to determine whether a soil is stable. We're actually going to be calculating what's called a factor of safety, which is the strength of the soil divided by the forces driving to failure, the forces necessary to keep it in equilibrium. And so that's something that we'll revisit. So this stress, you can have conditions where the stress on the soil exceeds its strength as a result of a decrease in the strength of the soil or an increase in the shear stress required for equilibrium or increased load on the surface of the soil. So the shear strength can decrease for a number of reasons. The most common one would be increased pore pressure, increased saturation of the soil, more water in the soil, which ends up reducing the effective stress. We'll talk about that in more detail. But that's a pretty basic principle of soil mechanics. Cracking can cause a problem, swelling. Some soils, when they get wet, they swell, increases their void ratio, makes them weak. Slicken sides, sometimes if you get repetitive stress, it can build up what's called a slicken side, causes its strength to go down. Sometimes you can get decomposition of clay and rock. Creep can be an issue. You can have a sustained load on a soil that over time it gradually weakens the soil. Leaching, that's leaching of salt from the soil, can cause quick clays to become weak. Strain softening, weathering, cyclical loading can be an issue as well, can cause a big variety of things can cause the strength to go down, leading to slope failure. And what causes the shear stress to increase? Well, loads at the top of the slope. That's a fairly common thing. Maybe you're at a mine and you put a bunch of filament of waste rock on top of a slope, could cause it to fail. Water pressure in the cracks at the top of the slope. We'll talk about that one. Increase in the soil weight due to increased water content. The soil itself can actually become heavier because of the water. Excavation at the bottom of the slope, that reduces the stability and can cause increased stress along a potential failure surface. Water dropping at the base of the slope water makes the soil buoyant, and when that water is gone, I'm talking about not water in the soil, but water submerging the soil. When that water leaves, it can increase the stress on the slope, leading to failure. And then, of course, earthquake shaking. That's a really common cause of slope failure, is those cyclical stresses, and the acceleration caused by the earthquake can cause a slope to fail. And a running theme in a lot of this is water. As you saw, in a lot of those causes before there's something to do with water. And a lot of these slope failures occur in clayey soils. You don't get very many slope failures in sands and gravels. I mean, it can happen, but it's a lot more rare. So typically we're talking about silty clay soils. And so, in summary, hopefully you've got a taste of things. Often in a slope failure there can be more than one cause, and there are a lot of different interesting dynamics at play that are interesting to untangle and figure out. But we'll keep looking at this, and we are going to develop a systematic computational technique that can be used to analyze the cause of previous failures or estimate the probability or risk of future failures. So we are going to learn how to look at the geometry of a slope, its water content, the weight of the soils, the forces acting on the slope, the shear strength of the soils in the slope, and then come up with an estimate of the stability of the slope. And it's actually a lot of fun. I think you'll really enjoy learning how to do this.